Hello and welcome back to the Outsider podcast. Today we're sitting down with James McManus, who is the founder of Earth's Edge, an Irish adventure travel company, and he's also a high altitude mountaineer. Jam is on a mission to be the first Irish person to climb Mount Everest without the use of supplementary oxygen. We caught up with Jam a couple of days before he headed out to the Himalayas for another season of climbing out there. His focus this time round will be on Makalu, which is the 5th highest mountain in the world. It's a really interesting chat. It's very casual, but we do touch on a couple of really interesting points about how Jam got into the outdoors, how he's now transitioned his interest in the outdoors into a career, as well as a sporting passion. We talk about training, we talk about nutrition, we talk about altitude tents, we talk about the harsh reality of high altitude mountaineering, and we also have a bit of a laugh along the way. So without further ado, let's dive into the conversation with James McManus. The question that I'm going to ask everybody to kick off each episode is, what does being an outsider mean to you?
God, that's a very broad question. Yeah, I think like you kind of touched on it already. It just means getting out there and enjoying the outdoors. And I think just to take to have the benefits of that, you know, to just from a mental health or a physical health perspective to get out there. And to me, it doesn't really matter what you're doing. Definitely from my personality side for myself, it's kind of trying to push yourself a little bit. But after that, like be it climbing a big mountain or, you know, just anything really. Like I don't have a clear definition for that for you. Yeah, just getting out there and enjoying it really.
And what was your entry point into the outdoors then? What's your sort of earliest outdoor memory? Like, did you grow up in a house where it was just the done thing, or were you the outlier?
No, I think my mom was super into the outdoors. Yeah, she's a big adventurer. Like she's into horse riding, climbing, hiking, kind of threw her hand to everything. So my first memory has probably been, I don't know exactly how old I was, maybe like 4 or 5, going on an adventure in the Slieve Blooms near where I'm from. I'm from North Tipperary. It's a bit of an epic story actually. We had a whole extended family out, and we had one car at the start, or a couple of cars, then one at the end with like a couple of rotisserie chickens in it.
Very good.
But like my mom, like, this is classic, like she'd plan an adventure with no actual planning, you know. So she just like picked a point like A to B. You've been in the Slieve Blooms. It's like very boggy and there's a lot of heather, so climbing over the heather was like hurdling, you know, when you're like a little small kid. So we ended up being out there for much longer than expected, and got to the car and we were all starving and they didn't have a key for the car. It's just like my dad had to go back. So lots of epics like that. So that's probably my first memory. And then always out hiking, you know. And then really from about nine was the first time I went kayaking. That was and from then that was kind of my big love. From 9 onwards, all my spare time was spent whitewater kayaking.
On the water.
Yeah, love that. Like.
Around Ireland, or did you go international, or like? I want to know, like, because I feel like a lot of kids maybe have that adventurous upbringing, but not a lot of them then maybe transition into it basically being their lifestyle, being like what they want to, like exclusively what they want to do, and they want to like make a business out of it, which you have, make like physical endeavors out of it. Like, how do you go from my mum brought us on lots of adventures as kids?
So the first we did a kayaking weekend as a family down in Lough Derg, like when I was 9. And then we joined Limerick Canoe Club, so we started going out with them every Sunday, and like Castle Connell. And from about maybe 14 I was like running the Clare Glens. And then maybe when I think I was 16, my mate, he was a year older than me, he had a provisional license. So then we started traveling around the country, running rivers. First time, I think, when I was 16, I took a month off the end of transition year and went to Kinsale Outdoor Education Centre and worked down there as a kayak instructor for 4 months. Cool. And that kind of gave me money to do my first Alps trip at the end of that summer.
Paddling in the Alps.
Yeah, paddling, yeah. And then the following summer I went to Sort in the Pyrenees to represent Ireland in kayak freestyle.
Oh, class.
Yeah.
I didn't actually know that.
No, sure.
There you go.
There you go. Sure, why would I be telling you, like?
Yeah,
you know?
I know.
I'm not gonna be like, hey, I was used to be on the Irish team. You're like, okay, I didn't ask you that. I didn't ask you that, like. So, and then from when I finished school, that summer, then went to the Zambezi and did 3 months there working as a safety kayaker, which was amazing, man. It was incredible.
Awesome.
Yeah, in high water. Yeah, it was scary, but it was awesome. Yeah.
What was something from that, when you think about that chapter of the like Zambezi trip, what's like a story that springs to mind, or like a visual that you have, or an experience that you had?
Yeah, I suppose like the thing about the Zambezi is that you have it's a huge river that goes over Victoria Falls and it goes down into this gorge, the Patoka Gorge, and it gets down to 5 meters wide in certain places. So it's like, I don't know, they reckon hundreds and hundreds of feet deep, and the whirlpools are strong enough to make an 18-foot raft disappear. Like, so if you can imagine if someone is in the water, they're swimming or in a kayak. So the whirlpools, they form on an eddy line, but they actually are big enough to migrate and go down into the middle of the river. So it was just so intense, man. Like, so you got the white water, but also then you've got eddy lines that are nearly worse than the rapids.
Yeah.
So it was wicked to be there in a playboat, and just so fun. Like, got to surf a tubing wave, like standing
That's
wave.
class.
Yeah, and then the whole thing was just like, you know, it was pretty loose as well. Like, I didn't, there was no internet at that time. So me and my friend, we just booked flights to Zambia, and then we had nothing else booked, no accommodation, anything, like, so.
Do you think that's where, because now obviously you've gone on to be the founder of Earth's Edge, which is takes Irish people, I assume mostly Irish people, but people all over the world to do a whole host of different adventurous things. Do you think that was maybe your first introduction into like adventure travel, more so outside Europe? Did it instill anything in you that like you've sort of translated into building Earth's Edge? Like, is that trip maybe one of the reasons why Kilimanjaro is such a popular offering with Earth's Edge, and
I think
part of the world
I love it, you know. I love Africa. I mean, it's a huge place, obviously. Like, as a George Bush is like, yeah, the African country. You're like, bro, it's a continent. No, but I have family living in Kenya, so I took a trip there when I was 8 with my family. So I've always loved that. Like, but I just love that environment, man. To be in a completely different place, and. Yeah, East Africa, well, Zambia is in Southern Africa, but, you know, the year after I went to Uganda working there, I just love it. I feel very comfortable there. I can kind of, you know, when you go overseas and you come back to Ireland, you kind of understand everything. I feel like that there, you know?
Yeah.
I just get it. Like, I know what a boda driver is. I know, like, I can get in the back of a bike and he'll take me wherever I want.
Yeah.
I know there's a guy, like, shouting and roaring down the street, and he's hanging out of a little high-ice fan. He's basically shouting, like, you know, you could be coming down here and he's like just roaring like, and it's scary, like to try. So I understand how it works.
Yeah.
And I like it, you know.
Yeah,
I know if
so
I get
cool.
on a bus, like, and I'm hungry, a guy will come along and he'll put a chicken on a stick in through the window and I can eat it, you know. So I think it's really good for, you know, I guess like more recently, like with all the environmental stuff, I've often struggled a little in my own head of bringing people a long haul, but I think it's so important for people to see that, you know.
Yeah.
Like from a global conservation perspective, you know, when we talk about like these places are so, we've originally went there and exploited them and destroyed them in another way in previous generations, and now tourism can help them in such a positive way. So
yeah,
it's like anything we're talking about, environment and users in Wicklow, like it's not a simple problem, but tourism is really good. And I think bringing people to these places, like to India or Nepal or Africa or wherever, it just gives them a sense of how privileged they are, I think, which is really important, you know.
Yeah, it's like the perspective piece, I suppose, that you can then come back to Ireland or go back to wherever home is, and you have more information to go off, like, because we're all human, we're all kind of we're a lot more similar than we are different in a lot of ways, and I think
for sure,
I think travel really sort of highlights that. But I'm like, don't maybe have the same personally don't maybe have the same travel bug that a lot of my friends would.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that I don't love traveling abroad. Like, I've been all over the world. I've been like to Peru and Borneo and many times to Europe, to the Alps and stuff like that. And each time I have taken something really significant away from those experiences. But I feel like exactly maybe what you're saying, that like those sorts of long haul travel experiences are about so much more, in my own head anyway, and maybe you have a different thought on this, but like in my own head they're about so much more than just a holiday or like taking a break from your life. It's like an opportunity to experience something like totally different and totally new that you can then like apply to your own life, your own outdoor experience. So I was in Italy in October just gone, and doing some mountain running, and ever sort of since that I'm like viewing Ireland in a slightly different way. Like it just changes the way that I interface with the outdoors a small bit, where it's like to me Glenmalure Lodge in Wicklow is like our alpine refuge. Like that is the Irish equivalent. The Irish equivalent is not like pizza and pasta, it's like big bowls of chowder and pints of Guinness.
Yeah.
But it's not that like in my head there was sort of a rank order where like the Alpine hut, when you wake up and there's Alpenglow out the window and like all this sort of stuff, like that was sort of an experience that was ranked, hello doggies, that was an experience that was ranked above like the Irish country pub experience.
Yeah.
But then like I did this big multi-day fast packing adventure with a very close friend, and we ended up in the Glenmalure Lodge for one of the evenings, and we were having like fish and chips beside an open fire.
Yeah.
And like we were exhausted. Our bodies felt exactly as they would have if we'd just had an 8-hour epic in the Alps.
Yeah.
But we'd had an 8-hour epic like 30 minutes from where we both live.
I know.
And it's like, yeah.
But I think like the thing is with Ireland is, and when you travel a lot, like you appreciate how amazing it is, you know. And it's hard to associate Irish people or our mentality with exceptionalism. We can suffer from that a little bit. But having counter-argument that, I genuinely think the people here are amazing. Like, just the crack, like, and you don't really get that, like, you know, in other places in the same way. Like, just the banter, like, that there's some total random stranger can take the piss out of you as soon as you start chatting to him, like, you know. So I love that. But I think with these big overseas trips, like, especially what we're doing in Earth's Edge, we just get people who, for whatever reason, like it's usually something kind of connected to their mental health, to be honest, that they are drawn to what we're doing, and to just see them grow a little bit on a big mountain trip, and particularly in the developing world. I think there is an element to that where they're kind of meeting people who are maybe have a lot less than they have, and they definitely have their struggles for sure, man. But their struggles are generally a lot harder than ours. And it's not to minimize anyone's pain or whatever they're going through, but like, you know, comparison sometimes is good for you, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, if you're worried about, you know, some internal thing in your job or whatever, or you're not sure you want to change, or you have something, and then you're meeting someone who's like, I don't have enough money to put a roof on my house, you know? You kind of, there is something in that where you're kind of checking yourself and you're going, yeah, I have problems, but they're not super bad. But I think with, maybe it's because what we do at Earth's Edge, but I think the big thing is that like the trips give people that sense of purpose, you know? Like we take it for granted. Like if you get injured, you can't train for a week or two, like, you know what you're like, no?
I'm horrendous.
We're all horrendous, man. We're horrendous. Like, I'm flying to Nepal on Monday at like 3, and I'm like, I'm going to train in the morning, and then when I get to Kathmandu, I'm going to sleep, and then I'm going to go to the gym, you know?
Yeah.
I can't just take a rest day.
Yeah.
So, if you think, like we're joking about it, but it does genuinely impact our mental health if we don't have something to train for. So, I think that's hugely positive about traveling and taking on a mission wherever it is, you know.
Yeah, it's that added layer, of purpose, as you say.
Yeah.
And like just to circle back to the the thing I did with my friend that I was alluding to a moment ago. That was, we fast packed the Wicklow round, which
nice.
is something you did with a friend.
Yeah, exactly.
Forget who you did it with now.
I did it with Colin Irvine, Heather's brother.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
That's gas.
It was so
a small
fun.
world. Yeah, but that sort of, and that was COVID times.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's sort of like, that probably serves a similar sort of purpose, where
100%.
it's like, that is something that that's like your North Star. That is like something that you're sort of training for. It's a reason to get out and a reason to experience what Ireland has to offer, I suppose.
Yeah, like, you know, for me at that time, that was the so I did that. So COVID hit in February, so I did that in the following July. Random story, we waited for the bracken to get like 5 feet tall. I know, dude, he's a school teacher, like, so he's only doing the summer, about my buddy. But I started training for that at the time when, like, you know, those 2 years our turnover in Earth's Edge went down 93%.
Yeah.
So it was stressful. So, and on top of that, I had all my teams in the developing world who had no income, so we were trying to support them as well. So it was just something positive to put my energy into. And I think, like, people, I just don't understand how someone could function without that in their life, you know? Be that whatever, like, if it's swimming or it's whatever it is, but just to be just stretching yourself, that little bit of discomfort.
I also think that and we can definitely relate to this, and I wonder if it applies to everybody, but like, I think it has to be a physical thing for me. Like, I think there's like there's the career, and there's like the job and creative stuff. There's all these different buckets that you sort of are trying to fill, maybe. But like, I think that having some kind of objective to work towards, like, in some way physically, like, I'm not going to define what it is. Everyone has different abilities, everyone has different things that they actually want to do, but like, I think for me, like, and maybe for you as well, like, having that physical thing to focus on, and it's sort of like a very distinct bucket. Like, you doing the Wicklow round is not going to further Earth's Edge necessarily, but but maybe inadvertently it is, because you're then out for longer. I have my best ideas when I'm out and about. So.
Yeah, you do, for sure. I think for me, like, in a past life, in psychotherapy, trying to learn how to relax. I can't do it, bro. I cannot do it. Like,
but isn't that funny, trying to learn how to relax?
No, just look, I was going to hold that rabbit hole to explain that point, but it's one of the things I need to work on, you know, whatever. But like, what I figured out from that process is that, like, I have a huge amount of energy, and if I put that all into training for Everest or the Wicklow rounds, I'll get injured, you know? If I put it all into Earth's Edge, I'll, like, on my profession, I'll run too fast there, or, you know, if you put it in all into socializing or whatever your other interest is. So I just try and balance my energy into different things, and I'm lucky that I get to go away like 3-4 months of the year where I can't work. So because I work at such an intensity, by the time I get to go on expedition, I need the break, you know? Yeah,
there was something my friend, or it was actually Stephen Murphy, who has the national 100-mile road running record. He said on a podcast that I loved, and I almost like wrote it on a sticky note and put it on my fridge kind of quote. It's one of those where he's like, either I use the energy or the energy uses me.
That's good, it's true.
And I was like, that is like, and again, I don't know if everybody I don't know if that hits everybody the same way that it hit me when he said it. But I was like, that is so true. Because if as you say, if you have a couple of days where you aren't able to do that physical thing or use that energy, and it doesn't actually matter what you're using that energy for. It can be career, or it can be physical, or whatever. But if you don't use that energy will find a way to use you.
For sure.
But talking about like goals and North Stars, from a surface level understanding of your goals, to me it seems at the moment that Everest no oxygen is kind of the North Star, but you're playing the long game with it. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, you could say. I mean, I'm taking the long game. I went to try and summit it in 2022. I didn't have the plan of the long game there, but yeah, it's definitely going to take time. You know? Yeah.
Do you think that 2022? So you've been back since.
Yeah, so made an attempt in 2024.
Yeah.
So I was supposed to go from China, but the permits didn't work out, so I had to come back, and then I attempted Lhotse instead. But still, it turned around.
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't quite make it.
Do you think that, like, do you think you're quite gung-ho in 2022?
Yeah.
And do you think you've now, like, what did you learn maybe from 2022 that you're now applying to the perspective that you're approaching it with now, if that's a fair question?
I think the big lesson I had in 2022 is I suffer from cumulative fatigue. And probably my ego was a little bit too loud at that time. Possibly still a little too loud, to be honest. But you want to do it in your own style, don't you?
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. So basically in 2022, I did too many, like, cumulative fatigue. Like, people don't understand fatigue. But cumulative fatigue is lots of hard efforts without proper rest. So I kind of did 2 5,500 meter passes with some rest in between, but all at altitude. Then 2 6,000 meter peaks. I climbed a mountain called Island Peak, and then another one called La Boche, both 6,000 meter peaks, but kind of went from 4,000 to the top and back pretty quick, carrying all my gear. And then did 3 pretty gnarly rotations on Everest, the last one up to just under 8,000 meters. And then came back to base camp, rested for a few days, and then turned around to go up, and just it wasn't in my body.
Yeah.
So that was a huge learning. So, and kind of annoying, because it's not something I don't know. I probably knew that at the time.
Yeah.
I know I didn't know at the time, but it's such a simple mistake. It's kind of frustrating to look back on it, but I think that's how you learn, isn't it? You know, from those mistakes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. I think like it's very funny, like, in hindsight things can seem so obvious and so clear, and you're like, why did I let myself do that or make that mistake or whatever it is? But then, like, you need to go through it. You need to make that mistake, like, in order to then correct it and be better.
You do, and you learn so much. Like, so, I mean, if I was talking to myself in 2022, I would say, like, go and do a smaller 8,000 meter peak first. That's what I tried to do in 2023. I tried to climb Dhaulagiri, but it's smaller. It's just like just 8,000 meters, like it's not less than 8,100. But we had a lot of snow in 2023, so it became super dangerous and challenging, and we had to turn around there as well.
I suppose also, like, and I have never been up a mountain that big, obviously, but like, I feel like maybe it's a misconception that smaller equals easier.
Yeah, obviously from an elevation perspective, like, you know, at the 8,000 meter peaks, you've got like the kind of big, the big 5, you know, Everest, K2, Kanchenjunga, Lhotse, and Makalu. But then some of the smaller ones, especially in the spring season, are pretty hard. You know, Dhaulagiri and Annapurna. Like Dhaulagiri can be fine if it's not that too much snow. But if there's a lot of snow, it's really dangerous. Really, really dangerous.
And there was one thing that you said at the start there that was actually something that I had written down around this. The fact that it's not just climbing Everest. The fact that it's Everest, no oxygen.
Yeah.
Which is no supplementary oxygen. It's not like you're going to be holding your breath going up Everest. That would be impressive. And you sort of touched on it there, is like you want to do something the way you want to do it.
Yeah.
And it's like, so I suppose that's not really a question. Why no oxygen?
Yeah.
And I was having a conversation with somebody, and we were talking about what you do is not necessarily like how you do something is not the same as what you're doing, if that makes sense. So I can, like, me going for a big hike, listening to music, following a GPS track, staying on like a very designated trail, and I know exactly where I'm going, and the stats could be the exact same as going off-piste on something I've never done before, following a map and compass, identifying birds and plant life as I go. That's not the same thing. It's not the same experience. That how you do is not necessarily the same as what you've done. So why, I don't know, that's a necessary tangent, but like, why no oxygen?
Yeah, I think, like, so what happened, as I was saying, like I'm away 3 to 4 months at altitude, so you tend to kind of like, you're obviously doing a lot of exercise, but you detrain and you lose muscle, so it's kind of disruptive from a training perspective. So in the pandemic, I managed to do like a 12-month training block, at the end being the Wicklow Round. And then after that I was like, okay, like I'm pretty solid mountaineer, and I have this, like I was always a good endurance athlete, but to do the Wicklow Round, it's really hard. So I kind of had this, my training knowledge had come up quite a lot. Hello, doggy. And so my training knowledge, like I understood training. I basically was being coached properly.
Yeah.
And then the next obvious, when I finished the Wicklow Round, I was like, oh, okay, now, so I now have the engine to take this on. So then it became on my radar. So that's why I want to do it. Like, people ask me, like, what are you going to do, or how's it going to feel like when you get to the top of Everest? I'm not going to feel anything, because I'm going to be taking a picture and going back down again, because I don't want to die. You know, I want to get, like, so the attraction is, it's a really difficult problem to solve that I might never do, you know.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Like,
yeah, isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, it's great. Like,
yeah.
I actually, like, I think it could, yeah, I know it will be anticlimactic if I do it. But I'll find another thing, like there'll be something else. And
that's always the way, whether it's a race or whether it's a personal goal or an objective or whatever. Like, it's the post-race blues or the whatever. It's like having, like, we build these things up so much in our own head, and you focus so much on something, and then when you do achieve it, or when you ultimately move on, it can be this, like, release of, like, oh well, it can be a what next. See, the thing about Everest with no oxygen, like, you can't go up from there, like.
No, you're right, well done. That's why they pay you the big bucks for it.
Like,
there's always more, there's something else to do, you know, like, there's lots to do. There's so much to do. Like, I think for me, like, okay, obviously you're right about there not being a higher mountain, but there are other things that you can do, and it's not like, I mean, it doesn't matter, does it? I've loads of things that I'd like to migrate into. Like, I'd like to do a lot of, I have in my head to do, like, really long cycles. I'd love to do that, you know. But I think, and the other thing is, like, I know from, like, kayaking back in the day at a really long level, I kind of fell out of love with that, but associated myself with it as a kayaker, so kept doing it for longer than I should have done. So really with this trip to Makalu, like, summit or not, like, there has to be a kind of a real kind of self-reflection, is in, like, do you want to sacrifice and keep training this way before you commit to Everest, you know? I know people who are trying to climb the 8,000 meter peaks, and some of them, it's like a noose around their neck, you know, and some of them are like, you know, Makalu, okay, Everest, you have the ice fall and all that, but if you're training for something like Annapurna, like, there's a lot of risk there that you don't control at all. And that's kind of, I mean, back in the day when you'd be kayaking, like, trying to, you know, save money, scratch money together to go, like, kayak some of the hardest whitewater in the world, there's an element there, it's like, you're going into that and it's like, this is really, really dangerous. Like, I know I'm going to be scared every day. And for me, mountaineering, high altitude mountaineering, what I do, it doesn't give me that. And I quite like that, you know, the same way trail running doesn't give me that. So I think to do, I know I'm going on a mad tangent.
No, it's great.
But some of the 14,000 meter peaks, they don't really appeal to me. But maybe my mind will change on that. But something like Annapurna,
where the risk is too high.
It's too high, man. Especially, like, at the moment, like, for Makalu, and I don't know, I'm climbing with a really good friend of mine, Shearing. He's a Sherpa. Like, you know, he's working for me. I'm paying him to be there, to be on oxygen. So if I become hypoxic, he can help me out, you know. But the ethics of working with someone like that on Annapurna are really, I don't know about that, you know. I really don't.
Because it is, I suppose this actually is an entry point to a broader conversation about high altitude mountaineering, where it's like, it does get to a point where it's not just you. If you know what I mean. And it's like, that's different for different people, depending on what their home life setups are, but like maybe there's family or people at home or whatever to take into account when you're making these risk assessments. Like, it might not seem risky to you or I, but it might seem risky to somebody else.
Yeah.
And it's interesting then, that's a thing I hadn't thought about, is like, if somebody is guiding or helping or whatever, like there's a risk involved for them as well.
Yeah, well, there's a responsibility on you. Like.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, you kind of touched on it, if you have kids, which I don't, you know, your decision-making process or your risk, your ability to take risks, your thinking should change there, I would have thought, you know. But yeah, it's I don't know. It's I think,
how do you sort of, do you do any mental preparation? Like, I find this topic a little bit funny sometimes, because I feel like people love to talk about the mental side of things.
Yeah.
Almost to the detriment of physical preparation.
Yeah.
But I also think that it's interesting. I also, especially for something that is higher risk than something I'd be doing, which is like running along a trail. Like,
yeah.
It's.
I mean, but it is. I think what people are interested in is just the mindset to want to take that on and what it takes to be that disciplined, you know. Which I think is relevant to trail running or in some ways, but I think there is something, definitely people are really drawn to the high mountains and the metaphors around bringing that back into everyday life.
Yeah.
So but yeah, you need more than a good mindset, you know.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating, the psychology around it, you know. Like there's a thing called like the dynamics on high mountains, like especially if you're in a leadership position, you know, with clients or with sharing and I climbing together. I'm naturally a kind of a take on that leadership role in a group, and it's very important to be aware of that how dominant you are, because he needs to have the confidence to give me feedback that I need to hear, you know, that's going to keep me alive. So if I go out there and go, we're doing it this way, my body needs to move at this pace, and I need you to do X, Y, and Z. When he can see something, he might be a little bit nervous to, and that's the same with clients. So there's loads of different kind of mindset stuff that's important to be aware of. But I do think, like, I think some of the things that trail runners and high altitude mountaineers would have in common, like that people maybe wouldn't have, would be that ability to be resilient and that absolute joy in suffering, you know. Like we have that, but a lot of people think we're absolutely crazy, you know. Yeah. People are like, why would you want to go and do that? Like, why would you want to and your friend go run around Wicklow, like, for the fun of it, you know? It's crazy to think you'd like to suffer, you know?
Yeah. But then inversely, from our perspective, it's crazy to me to think that somebody wouldn't want to do that.
100%.
Like, I was on a run with two very good friends of mine, a run in the McGillicuddy's Reeks. Yeah. So that's sort of whatever. But it was like a day like today. It was like midsummer, not even though it's not midsummer here, but it was beautiful, beautiful day, and obviously Carrauntoohil is mobbed, all the other mountains are completely empty, and we did basically the horseshoe, if I'm remembering correctly, and we were running up Carrauntoohil from the backside, and we ran past this group of people, and somebody was like, "God, you're crazy," or something like that. And I sort of like, I took a moment, and we sort of giggled as you do, and ran on. I turned to my friend and I was like, maybe we're not the crazy ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I think you're doing what you love, you know? And I think that's kind of taking it back to my work, like with Earth's Edge, like to I don't know, like when someone signs up to do a trip with us when they have no relationship even with fitness, and then they come and do something like Kilimanjaro, trekking to Everest Base Camp, like when you're creating that relationship with them to the outdoors or with training, like that's such a privilege. And like I think as well, like what makes me sad is like all this time I spend in the developing world where I'm working with people who are like, you know, you know, I'm on Kilimanjaro. The guides and porters there are always saying to me, please, like, bring more people, you know?
Yeah.
Because we need the work, like.
Yeah.
They're obviously saying, well, we love the Irish and all that.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I know it. They want more work because
Yes.
they need it to educate their kids and all that. So, like, and lots of people in the developing world don't get the chance to follow their dream, you know. And be that running in the mountains or hiking or anything, like. So if you're in Ireland, like one of the richest countries in the world, and you have the capacity to do whatever you want on the weekend, like, you need to do that, like.
Yeah.
Because probably 7 billion people in the world don't get to do that, or 7.5 maybe, you know. You're so lucky that you have to take it for the people like in Gaza or Ukraine that can't. Instead of, like, you know, of course we need to be aware of these things, but, like, you got the golden ticket, use it, like, you know. I really feel strongly about that, you know, the people, whatever, it doesn't have to be outdoors, it can be anything, like, but just to really live your life to the absolute max, whatever that is for you, you know.
Yeah, I had coffee with somebody this morning, and it also just naturally sort of just came up in conversation, this idea of, like, you gotta play the cards that you're dealt, and it's sort of similar in that, like, we've got this opportunity. Like, if you're listening to this podcast, you're so lucky.
Yeah.
Like, you've got such a privileged life in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
And, like, you've got to play those cards, like.
Yeah.
Because but
like I had this amazing client, like, she did a load of trips with us. She was in Mira Peak with me in 2018. She's from Donegal. She's probably at the time maybe in her late 60s. So her and her husband were asleep one Friday evening at home, and they got a knock at the door at 3 o'clock in the morning, and it was the guards. Like, their son had been killed in a road traffic accident. So, like, I can't even contemplate that kind of pain, you know. And it's very difficult, like, something her partner, her husband, like, couldn't get over. But she just decided, like, I want to live the life that I wanted my son to have.
yeah, wow.
So she started, and I just like these are the people that inspire me, you know.
Yeah.
She started training. She did a half marathon, then she did a full marathon, then she went and did Killy. She went and did, like, 6,000. She came to K2 base camp with us. She did Mira Peak, 6,500 meter peak. I'm just like,
That's class.
like, that is legendary status, no?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's so cool.
I think, like, a lot of people that come to us, like, they have a trauma, be it like a separation or their own health scare or something like this lady. And, like, I think it shouldn't take that for you to be like, let's go after it. Like, let's do that thing that I really want to do, you know? Because there's so many excuses of why you can't do it. But really, you just need to go for it, you know?
Yeah, look for the reasons to do it as opposed to the reasons not to do it.
Or consider it. Like, someone said to me recently, like, I was kind of struggling with anyway, it doesn't matter what it is. That's another story, another podcast. But she just said to me, like, what would your 80-year-old self tell me to do it? And then it was like, boom, I'm doing it, I'm going for it, like.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to have regrets, you know, in my life. And I don't really, like, not big ones anyway, but yeah.
No, that's class.
What would your 80-year-old self tell you to do, like?
Yeah.
It would tell you to go run around the mountains or...
Yeah. Use the youth. Use the body.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know if it's actually Bear Grylls that made this quote, and it's funny to bring up a Bear Grylls quote, but I'm going to misquote it now, but it's basically the idea is, like, I don't want to come to the end of my life in a perfectly preserved body. I want to come, like, screeching in with bruises all over me, like a well worn out body going, woohoo, what a ride. Like that sort of idea.
That's it, like, you know. I mean, within moderation.
Yeah, of course, like, not being reckless or anything, but
a little bit reckless.
Yeah, balance.
There you go.
The other thing that came up when I was having coffee with a friend earlier, and I said that I was going to be interviewing you, and I told her about Everest with no oxygen. She was like, how do you train for something like that? And I was like, you're just going to have to listen to the podcast.
Very good. Look at you.
So go on. What does a normal training week sort of look like? Are you following some kind of periodization where months in advance training looks very different to weeks in advance?
Yeah.
I assume you're using expeditions somewhat as dry runs or simulations like that you're doing? Like I know you're in Aconcagua relatively recently and stuff like that. How do you follow a plan at all, or are you just training intuitively?
Yeah, I definitely follow a plan.
Mm-hmm.
When I don't follow a plan, like when I follow my own plan in my own head, I run into problems, you know. So I have a really good guy, Kieran Nolan. He gives me a training program, so it's periodized. So we just done a block of speed actually, randomly enough, which is not going to help me on Everest at all. But I want to run a marathon in October, so
very good.
and I'm currently really slow, so we're working on that. But yeah, basically, it's all about from a physical perspective. If you're looking at that one element of it, it's all about having a massive aerobic engine. So lots of really slow training sessions. Yeah, for like lots of zone 1 and zone 2 training. So keeping your heart rate low and just developing your heart and lungs, making them more efficient. So that's going to transfer on over 8,000 meters, like being able to take a step every 7 seconds as opposed to every 12, you know. So and just from when your aerobic engine is much bigger, your body is like, even on the hike in, and your heart rate is lower, you're not working as hard on the hike, so your body can focus on acclimatizing and put all of its energy into that. But effectively, like a general, to kind of give you a specific answer, a general training week for me would be like 2 strength sessions, probably like 3 runs, a long hike and a long bike, you know. But I don't just train for Everest, like at Aconcagua in February, which was fine. Really use that for kind of testing gear and nutrition. And then previous to that, I had another 7,000 meter peak in October. So I kind of have like my main goal every spring, and then do something in the autumn as well.
And how are you going? What are you going to be eating in this Everest?
Yeah.
Or this one isn't this time around, is it?
Yeah, it's
Everest,
Makalu, yeah.
But on an expedition like that, what can you eat? Because,
what's the food like?
Yeah, what's the food like? Because I did hear something about altitude affecting your metabolism in certain ways, and you've maybe not in this chat, but in the past you've talked about, like, and I've heard other people talk about on these sorts of expeditions you're running a deficit all the time.
100%.
And so, like, what are you eating that's giving you enough fuel to keep going, while also limiting the breakdown?
Yeah. And I can't explain to you in a scientific way, but you lose more muscle than fat up there as well.
Wow.
Which is annoying, because I'm 42, it's hard to put on muscle now.
We really had to if it was the other way around. Everyone would go to altitude.
Come back with your like beach body. Not that I ever have one of those, but yeah. So on the walk in, you're staying in tea houses. So it's like, it's so funny. A friend of mine, like, we sent doctors on trips, and he was talking to someone about the food. Like, we were at a festival together. He was telling someone about my trips, and he was like, "Yeah, Nepal was awesome, but the food is real stodgy." I was like, "No, it's not." And then I was like, "Yeah, actually it is." So the tea houses, hello doggy. On the tea houses, you getting stuff like dal bhat, which is rice, lentils, pasta, just kind of like porridge, boiled eggs, all that kind of stuff. When you get into base camp, actually the food is a little bit more varied, because it's for Westerners. But with the duration of hiking you're doing, you're not getting enough calories and you're not getting enough protein as well. So I'm going to supplement my diet with a protein, like probably 60 grams of protein in a day. And then...
And would that just be in a powder form?
That'll be powder, yeah. Like I think it's an isolate.
Yeah.
And then also I'll be taking... So one of the big focuses is not to get sick either, not to get an infection. So I'll be taking like an Origin Greens, Revive Active, a load of multivitamins. Yeah, that's it really. Yeah. And then base camp is at 5,600 meters. So the problem is you lose your appetite at altitude, and then your body is working harder. So your resting heart rate might be like 50% higher. Yeah, a good bit more. So your calorific need is higher. So when you get up to, let's say, 7,000 meters or higher, you could be burning like, I don't know, like, it's really hard to say, like, but I would say, like, you know, maybe 5,000 to 6,000 calories anyway.
Yeah, just baseline.
Yeah, you're and then you exercise on top of that, And then if of normal food, if I asked you to eat like porridge or like expedition food, you can only stomach around 1,500 calories of that.
Yeah.
So then higher up in the mountain, I'm using various different like high calorie stuff from Precision Hydration. I'm using Tailwind, which is the rehydration salts with calories in it. And then I'm also using amino acids as well to try and limit the muscle loss.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so a lot of sneaky calories. Like.
Yeah, but I suppose it's a balance between, because maybe you don't, like in the tea house and stuff, you don't get to really have total control over what is on
you
offer.
can order from a menu.
Oh, you can?
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay.
It's the same menu in all the tea houses.
That's handy.
Yeah. Oh, like typical food in the tea house, I might have like porridge with apple and 2 boiled eggs in the morning. And then lunch we could have like veggie fried noodles or veggie fried rice.
Sounds like nice food.
I think it's good, man. I'm an easy crowd, but my buddy was
I actually love stodgy food as well.
You'd be fine.
My girlfriend would tell you, like my porridge, like if I turn my spoon upside down with my porridge on it, it doesn't fall off.
Okay.
Like I have stodgy
Actually,
porridge.
it's probably better than your porridge. That sounds grim. But you're not getting like fresh veg and fruit and stuff. You're getting apples and that. So, like, you're not getting a big garden salad or whatever. Yeah. Like, you're not getting your nutritionally over time. It's probably not brilliant.
Yeah.
So this year, like, if people are like, it's the 11th of April today. Most people going into 8,000 meter peaks are already there. They would have arrived in Nepal at the end of March, early April. So this year I'm not flying until the 14th. So I won't actually start hiking until 16th, 17th, probably the 18th. And I'm hoping to summit around the 15th of May. So I'm making my trips shorter in an effort that I'm going to limit the amount of weight loss and cumulative fatigue. Because if you think about like, let's just park training or trying to be an endurance athlete for a second, like if you want to look at your general health, it's having enough calories and also sleeping really good. So those two are gone. And then when somebody wants to recover or wants to feel better, particularly if they're sick, we put them in hospital and we give them oxygen. So we're taking that away as well. So you're just constantly deteriorating all the time. So you're more open to infection and stuff like that. So I'm trying to make the trip shorter this year. It's another big thing that I'm changing this season.
Is there any method to the madness of some kind of pre-acclimatization strategy, like in a tent or that sort of stuff? Have you ever done that? Because I've heard it mentioned on other podcasts that I've listened to, when people are looking to do this sort of rapid ascent sort of stuff, and they're pre-acclimatizing at home to 4,000 meters, so the base camp feels more normal, this, that and the other. Is that something that you're thinking about, or is it more just I need to get as base aerobically fit as I can because that is the ultimate?
I mean, that is your base aerobic fitness is kind of the North Star, You absolutely need that. The hypoxic or altitude tent, I tried that last season, and I didn't personally get a huge benefit from it.
Interesting.
Like, without being on one of these rapid ascent trips, or having talked to someone who runs one of those companies, the other key thing that they're doing there that they're not telling you maybe in their material is they're putting their clients on a really high flow of oxygen, which makes a big difference. Okay. Yeah. So, for example, like, what people generally, like, kind of a baseline flow of oxygen is 2 liters per second, and that's kind of taken about 2,000 meters off the mountain. So you're walking at 8,500 meters, it feels like 6.5 with the oxygen. But on those rapid ascents, apparently I've heard, okay, so don't get me sued or anything, they're on about 4 to 8 liters per second.
Wow.
With Sherpa carrying a lot more because they're using it much faster. So that's another key element to it. Like on Aconcagua this season, people are starting to I've seen clients using oxygen there as well.
Yeah.
And that's people want to go. They were all so busy now. We were talking about that earlier on. That people want to be on these mountains for a shorter period of time. So yeah. And to go back to your original point, I personally find with the altitude tent, in reality, like, you're only spending like 8 hours in there as opposed to actually being at altitude where you're there for 24 hours a day. And I think it also impacts your recovery quite a lot. If you've got quite a high training volume, it can limit your recovery, because you need that oxygen to recover, basically. So I wouldn't be personally a fan of it, to be honest. I think after 2 weeks at altitude, you're pretty well acclimatized.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't feel like I need it.
Because I feel like there's a lot of maybe it's the mindset of like trying to like buy shortcuts or buy success, or like I see it in sort of the more athletics side of maybe what I do, where like there's a lot of like trying to buy recovery and stuff like this, and realistically, as you alluded to there, like being an endurance athlete or achieving something that is related to endurance is like good sleep, good food, like proper training.
Yeah.
And oxygen.
No, but like, the flip side of it is, I'm sure if you were talking to 10 people like going to really high altitude, like 5 of them would say, "Oh, the altitude tent is amazing." So
yeah,
it's just my personal take on it.
Yeah. I
yeah.
hear it's not fun either, so it's pretty good that it doesn't work.
Oh, it's not fun, man. Especially with like a girlfriend or something, or any kind of partner. They're like, I don't want to sleep at 5,000 meters.
Sleep in the other room. Thanks.
Yeah, exactly. But like, yeah, it's just kind of like, you got to get in there with, like, I had one that went over my double bed, like, so if you get out of it, it starts like depressurizing. It simulates. I don't know how I can't remember how it actually works. It doesn't know. It pumps in air that's got less oxygen in it.
Yeah.
But like, if you get out and you leave it open, like, obviously that air is going to mix with the normal oxygen in there. So I was going in there with like a pee bottle and all this thing, like, and then like you're waking up in the morning and it's kind of, you're a bit clammy in there. So I didn't get to altitude after that and feel like, wow, I really have cut a corner here.
Yeah.
Because for me personally, like, I find like when I go to 4,000 meters, that's the moment where like I get like my kind of heart rate can jack up quite suddenly and then come back down, or I can feel a bit headachy for a couple of days. But after that, I'm fine. So when I went to the Himalayan last spring, after being in the altitude tent for the entire period between Aconcagua and my expedition, when I went back to 4,000 meters again, I still had that thing. So I didn't see a huge benefit in it. So personally,
it seems like quite a difficult thing to put your finger on, like how people react to altitude in different ways. It seems like everyone sort of has their own way of.
I think it's like another one. Like you hear loads of stuff like hot and cold training, like training fasted. Like these are things that people swear by, and then they can be disproven. So I would say to people like, if it works for you and you feel a benefit, that you're actually getting a benefit, or you're getting a strong placebo effect of a benefit, then keep doing it.
Yeah.
If you're not, don't.
Yeah. And I think as well, an added layer to that might be like, do you enjoy it? Is it easy for you to factor into your life?
Yeah, exactly.
Like heat training, I actually love going to the sauna.
Yeah.
So, and it's very easy for me to do lots of sauna. So even if there's like no benefit to training, I'd still do it anyway because I enjoy it.
Do you actually train in the sauna?
I don't train in the sauna.
You just get in there.
I get in there at post training.
Right.
But I have done active heat training in the past, which is like on the indoor exercise bike with loads of layers on. That's not particularly fun.
Do you want to borrow my down suit, do you?
Yeah, no, I'd wreck a down suit.
Oh God, yeah.
That's not that enjoyable, but
yeah.
I think it's a balance of finding something that you somewhat enjoy doing as well.
And we all have that line, where someone is saying to you, like, for me, it's around diet a lot. Like, someone is like, "Oh, you need to do this." I'm just like, no, I'm doing that. Like, I don't care. I'm every now and then I'm like, so I think everyone has that kind of thing where, like, it's kind of, as you said, like, if it's really not fun for you, then you run the risk of falling out of love with your sport or the thing that you're getting so much joy from. So you have to make sacrifices, but to a point, I think.
Yeah. I think I'd be remiss to not talk a little bit about Earth's Edge, as well as the B Corp stuff.
Yeah.
Because we could talk training. Like, I think we are going to probably do a part 2 of this when you get back from Makalu?
Makalu, yeah.
Makalu. So we'll have another opportunity to sort of debrief and talk altitude and all that sort of crack, hopefully, if I can persuade you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
But I'd love to sort of do a bit of, let's spend a little bit of time talking about maybe the story behind Earth's Edge, the founding story.
Yeah.
And a little bit of what you're doing with B Corp Ireland.
Yeah, sure. So, Earth's Edge, I started in 2007. There's a company went 18 there quite recently.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
That
all my staff, like they all get, like, we always, well, they're all women, to be honest. The people who work in the office, so they're really good. Like I'm absolutely useless, but they always get like they're just brilliant at lots of stuff that I'm terrible at. But they always, like, you know, when someone's work anniversary, they get a gift. But like I never get one for my anniversary, you know. So hopefully they're listening. I'm giving them a dig. But no. So when I actually started the company, I was spending a lot of winters working in India as a river guide and doing some mountaineering as well. And I was 22, 23 when I kind of started to think about it, because I was doing winters in India and I was doing summers in California guiding there, and then kind of missions to South America or wherever, Africa in between. And then I was spending the winter in India and I just loved it, man. I loved India. Like, I still love it. It was absolutely amazing. So I was kind of trying to figure out, like, how can I share this with other people, and bring people to India to on trips. So that's kind of where the idea came from. So I just kind of went for it, like, and the business was originally called Into India, and we were running like multi-day river trips, mountaineering expeditions, biking trips, tri-adventure trips like biking, rafting, hiking, all in the one trip in India. That's how it basically came about. Yeah, wow. It was fun.
That's cool.
But it was hilarious because I'll tell you, like, when I first started it, I'd never worked in a travel agency or an expedition company. I could run great trips, but I'd never been part of a tour myself at all. I just had that youthful confidence based on thin air. So, like, I had no understanding of, like, the whole other aspect of the business, or how people were so nervous to go to a country like India. And Delhi, I don't know if you've ever been to Delhi.
No.
It's kind of weird. The hotel scene there is kind of strange. There's like really lavish 5-star hotels, and then there's like places that are like pretty dingy, but there's not much in between. So I didn't really know what kind of level of accommodation people wanted. So I just decided the easiest thing in my knowledge was like that we'll start the trip after they've spent a night in their own hotel in Delhi. So we used to get people to like meet us in New Delhi railway station, man, which is like the epicenter of like the most epic city in the whole world. And it's like a 25 like different like tracks and all that. So yeah, that was fine, but we got like a bit of feedback. It's like, yeah, you don't need to do the accommodation first. so that kind of started off, and then in 2011 I was living in Slovakia and spending about 4 or 5 months in Slovakia, and then 4 or 5 in India, and then a little bit of time in Ireland. And then in 2011 I came back and rebranded to Earth's Edge and started running trips in different countries around the world.
Class.
Yeah.
And now 18.
Yeah, we're 18, yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, that is wild.
Yeah, it's amazing, man. And the coolest thing is the people, man. The people on the trips are brilliant. Like I had a trip just now in Aconcagua. It's just the best fun, you know. And the people I was kind of talking to you about, that client from Donegal, and I hear people like that with all kinds of different stories, or people with a health scare, and it's just amazing, you know. And it's so nice to kind of, like, they're doing it, you know, but to kind of get that relationship, like build that relationship with training and purpose with them is such a privilege. Like, I just love it. Like, it's so nice.
I can imagine it's very rewarding as well to see people maybe go from I'm not sure if I can do this to achieving something, and seeing that like over and over and over again.
Yeah, for sure. It's brilliant. Like, they can kind of translate that confidence if they're like, you know, if they have no relationship with fitness, they do 6 months of training, and then they go climb Kilimanjaro or a 6,000 meter peak with us in the Himalayas. That sense of achievement transfers back over to other aspects of their life where maybe they're not that confident or whatever, and then suddenly, like, they have this bug where they kind of thought maybe, okay, I'm going to go to Killy, and then next year I'm going to go to New York, or I'm going to do whatever. But suddenly it's like, nah, I want another mountain trip, you know. That's cool. To help them with that is amazing.
And making that link that we've talked about a little bit already of like, that if you like dedicating yourself towards one specific thing, and even putting a couple of weeks or a couple of months behind you of good training for a goal, you achieve the goal. It's like this immensely rewarding thing if like you're dealing with people that maybe haven't experienced that before, or are maybe using the experience to as a coping mechanism in some way, or stuff like that. Like I can imagine just the stories that I hear among friends that I know well, even just out on a trail run in Wicklow or a hike or whatever. Like people open up in a way that they don't just day to day, and I can imagine in an expedition environment that's just tenfold.
Yeah, it is like, and you know, the thing I would say is like there's a massive mental health benefit to it. Like, you know, I was only talking to my team there the other day about like some of the struggles they've had in like my office team in Earth's Edge, and how they've really like got benefit from hiking, and you know, like for us, like a lot of my training is trail running as well, and like you just almost bounce the ideas of the solutions out of your head, you know, for hiking or running. And I think the other cool thing is as well, like when you talk about your friends, you know, maybe I'm a bit older than you, and it's you get to spend a lot of time with your friends, but like all my best friends now, or a lot of the guys I grew up with or went to kayak missions, they all have kids, like so we lead different lives, and they're very busy with family and stuff. Like when I was on Himalayan last year, 30-day expedition, like I spent 30 days with 5 people, and they're all really nice. So like I see my guys I like used to be like my best friends, I see them 2 or 3 days a year. So you form these very strong bonds with people on expedition over quite a short period of time. And when you go into, like we were in Himalayan last October at 7,000 meter peak, and we went offline with nothing I had a GPS to get the weather, but that was it. And like we just chatted all the time, played cards, we did yoga. We had like we met this Dutch family on the trail. It was very remote, like, and we were playing cards with them, and it was amazing, you know. Just so much time for people where there was no phones, or it's magic, you know.
Where it really just, it's all pared back, and then that almost makes me question: is it ever even about the mountain? It's really about the people.
So. Yeah.
And it's really about the experience and the memories that you make on these sorts of trips. It's not necessarily about the summit.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think it's kind of hard to marry that with what I'm doing on Makalu, you know, because it is quite individualistic, but I definitely think there is a huge element of team on that as well, with sharing like the Sherpa I'm with, or with Kieran, my coach. Like it's definitely something that if I'm successful, I think it'll be because of them I'm making it, you know. And there'll be huge satisfaction for them as well.
I've heard it said before that like, oh yeah, sport's a really selfish thing, and it like in some ways maybe depending on how you do it, I suppose it can be. But the thing that I try and do is, if there is an up or a down or whatever in your physical journey, whether for me it's a race or for you it's summiting a mountain, like bringing people that were there for you and like sort of supported you or helped you on the way in whatever shape or form that was, like celebrating with them, and like almost detaching yourself from the fact that it's not actually necessarily about the fact that I did the thing. It's I'm celebrating you because you helped me do the thing.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean?
Of course, yeah.
But I think maybe we'll just leave it there. We'll just leave it there, and we'll pick it up at another stage. But that was class. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you
it was
too.
Brilliant.
Yeah, awesome.
That was class.
I want good weather for the next podcast.
So I hope you enjoyed that conversation with James McManus. It was a really fun one, honestly, and I hope that came across in the podcast. Like, we just had a really good time. It was kind of like sitting around a campfire, just having the crack, and I hope that came across in the episode. It'd mean the world if you could share this episode with a friend that you think might enjoy it. And as we speak, Jam is out in the Himalaya doing this expedition. So if you'd like to follow along, you can check his links down in the description below. Thanks very much for listening, and we will talk to you very soon with another episode.